Hello everyone, this is BritSimon. Wanted to give you some updates as I see them on the current situation. Obviously there's a health scare at the moment, and that's affecting a lot of people around the world in various ways. So I thought I'd better update you on what's happening in the DV lottery world with all of that background. So the first thing I want to get out of the way actually is not related to the health crisis. It's related to the AP status on the CEAC system. The CEAC system was recently modified, and a lot of people that were previously, their status was showing administrative processing. Those people suddenly saw that their AP status had been changed to refused. And it was since USCIS in their way, USCIS in their way had posted an update about that, saying that they would do it, but only after they did it. So it's caused some sort of scare for some people and some uncertainty. So USCIS have confirmed that that was a deliberate action. It wasn't a technical fault, it was a deliberate action on their part. So cases that go into administrative processing are now going to be showing on the CEAC system as refused. And that's the same status as cases that are actually refused. And the reasoning for this is that AP, administrative processing, is actually a type of refusal. It's what's classified as a 221G refusal. It's a type of refusal that can be overcome. And so, unlike other types of refusals that generally cannot be overcome, the AP refusal is a temporary refusal, usually because they're waiting for some additional background checks or some paperwork that you failed to provide at the time of the interview, etc. So, if you were on AP and your status updated recently to refused, that in itself doesn't mean that you're refused. If you subsequently, during your period of AP, become permanently refused, unfortunately CEAC doesn't represent the difference between those two scenarios. So you will have to rely on an update from the embassy directly to yourself. You can't rely on the status from AP, from the CEAC system. And so this will change the way we extract data from that system a little bit. It'll cause us to do more checks on more cases, but it's just what we'll do. So we'll continue to do that. Okay, so that was the first point. Second point is about the health crisis going on at the moment, and I'm being cautious with my words because YouTube, for some reason, are clamping down on people causing panic through their YouTube accounts. So it's not my intention to cause panic at all with the information I'm providing. I'm just providing you statuses with regard to embassy closures and that sort of thing. So there are a number of embassies, particularly around Europe, but also all around the world, that have already announced that they're closing or limiting their the things that they do, their activities. So often these embassies have said we're not doing any more non-immigrant visa interviews for the time being. In some cases they're closing for non-immigrant and immigrant and the interviews, and they're only going to be available for emergency cases for American citizens, etc. So there will be a varying degree of reactions from all of the 200 or so embassies around the world about what they're doing at this time in terms of availability. So there will be significant cancellations. Those cancellations mean that if you were scheduled for March or April, you're likely to receive an email from the embassy saying you've been cancelled. The 2NL on CEAC, 2NL won't be updated. When KCC pass the case to the embassy, it's the embassy's responsibility from that point on to handle the case and update CEAC, etc. So the 2NL piece of paper you've got will still show the same appointment you have. What will have to happen is that once the embassy reopens, they're going to ask you to reschedule the interview, or they'll reschedule that for you. Some of the embassies, and this will vary embassy to embassy, so I'm not going to be able to help people with specifics about individual embassies, but some of the embassies have, along with their ability to create an account for usually USA travel docs, along with that account, there's an ability to schedule an interview, and in some cases they'll be making available interview slots through that system, or whatever is the equivalent courier system or appointment system for that embassy. In other cases, they'll just schedule the appointment for you and let you know when that's been rescheduled. So you need to, there's no point asking me, I don't know what your particular embassy will be doing. I'm not going to be able to track this for all the embassies around the world. But you're going to have to listen to instructions from the embassy as to how they will reschedule your appointment, or whether you will need to reschedule your appointment. In terms of where you will stand in terms of the prioritization, KCC may continue to schedule interviews, or they may not. I don't know at this point. KCC themselves are going to be impacted by a reduction in staff. If they haven't already had that, they're going to have that over the next few days. There are rapidly changing situation in the USA, where some places, like in my area, I live in the San Francisco Bay Area, where there's now a government order to stay and shelter in place, in other words, stay at home. So even though I was already working at home, we're now required to actually stay at home and not venture out. Well, if the same thing happens on, schools have closed, many businesses are closed, restaurants and bars are required to close. And so there's a dramatic change that's happened over the last couple of days here in the USA. And that's spreading throughout the USA, and so it's going to affect a lot of businesses. So it means that KCC themselves may have less staff available to schedule interviews for the upcoming May interviews. There could be impacts to that, and they're obviously going to be taking phone calls from people wondering what to do. That's going to make them busy. So frankly, at the moment, it's not clear how much time KCC will have to actually schedule interviews for the ones that are coming up, or beyond that. It is not possible for me to predict in this scenario what's going to happen next, what will happen with case numbers, whether any region will go current, what will happen. It's just not possible anymore. Things are rapidly changing. This health crisis is taking over, and it will obviously impact the eventual finishing points of each of the regions. It will undoubtedly have an impact, and it could mean that cases lose out, whether they be high cases or low number ranges. I don't know. Cases will lose out. For people that have been scheduled for an interview, as I say, the responsibility is now in the hands of the embassy, and the embassy handle this fully. There's no point, if you've been scheduled, trying to contact KCC to discuss it, to get them to do anything. They've passed your case over. So we're only talking about, with KCC, we're only talking about future cases being scheduled, cases that are supposed to be being scheduled right now for May. They will have done a lot of that work already prior to the last few days of scheduling. So they will send out some interviews, but unlike last month where we saw a large number of interviews, I think that's going to slowly or maybe very quickly dry up. So we'll have less interviews scheduled in May probably, and then if we have a high number of interviews scheduled in May, we're going to have less in June. So there's going to be an impact. I mean, there's also some of those cases from March and April are going to need to be rescheduled. That's going to impact the availability of interviews at each embassy. So there's definitely going to be an impact here. There's no point in pretending that things are normal, and I can't predict what will happen next. Okay. The other thing is, the other update I wanted to give is for people that have already received their visa, but they have not yet entered the USA to activate their LPR status. So the current rules say that citizens abroad or lawful permanent residents abroad are going to be allowed to return into the country at the moment through a number of US airports. And that will probably continue that way, even though there are other countries which are shutting down their borders in various ways. Even as we speak, there is announcements from Europe, etc., about that. So there's a changing travel environment, but if you've already activated your status, then you're an LPR, and unless you're nearing the time period when if you're coming up to 12 months of being absent from the USA, you probably needed to planned your trip back to the USA, and you can do that still currently, and I would advise you to do that. You can't be absent out of the USA for more than 12 months without prior permission. Now, they will probably, given these circumstances, they'll probably extend that, and they would issue later on, more easily issue returning resident visas, which are SB1s. So if you get stuck out of the country for longer than 12 months at this time, and you later want to reapply for your the reinstatement of your permanent resident status, your visa, your green card, essentially, you'll be able to make that application through your embassy once the embassies have reopened, and it's an SB1 returning resident visa. Now, for people that have been given their I-551, which is the visa we're all looking for, stamped into your passport, which is a one-time use visa to get into the USA for the activation trip, those have a 6-month effective date after the date of the medical, which means that if you took your medical, let's say 2 or 3 months ago, and you've been issued with your visa a month or two ago, you might actually be expected to enter the USA by, within 6 months of the medical. Could be coming up quite soon. And at the moment, you won't be able to enter the USA because you're a foreign person at the moment. You're not a lawful permanent resident yet. Your activation when you enter the USA is the point at which you become an LPR, and so you will not be allowed to enter at the moment. However, I advised in a video a few days ago that there was a procedure, a rarely known procedure, rarely used procedure, where embassies can extend that that visa availability or expiry date for exceptional reasons, right? Reasons beyond your control. This is not, your mother-in-law wouldn't let you go, or you had to finish up your job, or whatever. None of those sort of reasons. But at the moment, we've got an obvious big reason why people can point out that they were not able to activate their status. So I did read of a response from an embassy this morning, and the response roughly said, yes, due to the exceptional circumstances, we will be able to, or we might be able to, I believe it said, we might be able to extend your visa expiry date within the fiscal year. And then the note wrongly quoted the fiscal year as ending 31st of December 2020. That's incorrect. The fiscal year for US CIS ends the 30th of September each year, so 30th of September this year. So visas will be able to be reissued within that period if the embassies reopen within that period, which I fully expect they would do at this point. And so that's going to be possible, but it won't be beyond September. So they'll be able to reissue those visas up until September 30th, and people will have to retake their medicals in order to get that reissuance of the visa. So there'll be some costs involved in that because of that medical. But then you'll be able to extend your opportunity to enter. So there is a light at the end of the tunnel for people in that position at the moment, and so that's a sigh of relief. That has been confirmed, by now. Actually, I've got 2 places where I've seen that confirmed. It still is going to be an embassy by embassy decision, so it's not 100% certainty, but it looks likely to be possible. Okay, so that's the update as I wanted to give it. I hope that's covered most scenarios where people are wondering at the moment what the status is. Please let me know your comments in the comments below. If you have additional questions, I'll probably follow up with another video that addresses those. And of course, I always answer questions on my blog. So you can pop over to the blog and just ask me any question there. So anyway, everybody needs to keep calm, keep safe, keep practicing good hygiene, wash your hands. This pandemic is going to become more serious before it ends. And so, you know, we all need to do what we can to pull together as a community, a world community in this case, and stay calm. But there is going to be impacts to people. There's no doubt at this point. There's going to be impacts, and some of them will be not able to be fixed because the process will end on September 30th. 2020, because the new process, DV 2021, starts from 1st of October. So there is definitely going to be an impact here to people. Okay, so I think that probably clears it up. All right. Okay, keep well. Thank you. Goodbye, and do subscribe to my channel. Thank you. Bye-bye.